Hello students, now today we'll start chapter 15 and the name of the chapter is visualizing solid shapes. Now as the chapter name is visualizing solid shapes, isn't it? The chapter name is visualizing solid shapes, so we have to visualize it. We have to visualize different type of shapes in this particular chapter and we have to identify what type of shapes are there, and we'll discuss many things about faces, edges, vertices and lots of things. Fine, so let's begin the chapter with a topic that is 2D shapes, and it is also called a plane figure. Now I'm quite sure that you people have come across with this 2D shapes, so let's recap a bit before we go with the 3D shapes. Now what is the full form of 2D? 2D means two-dimensional. Fine, so these are all the figures that you all know. That is a square where all the sides are equal, rectangle where the opposite sides are equal, circles and triangle. So these are all the shapes which comes under 2D shapes. But the question is why they are called 2D shapes? As because in all these figures we have to only consider the two parameters. Fine, the parameters is length and breadth. So as because we are only concerned with the two parameters, so this all figures is said to be the 2D shapes, and this all figures can be drawn on the plane. They are all plane figures, fine, and they can be all drawn on the sheet of paper easily. Okay, we can say that these are all 2D shapes or these are all plane figures. Fine, so let's move on to 3D shapes now. So what is the full form of 3D? 3D is three-dimensional shapes and it is also called solid shapes. Fine, there are so many solid shapes are there. Okay, let's begin with this one. That is a cuboid. Sorry, this is cube. This is cuboid. This is cylinder, sphere. Sphere example is ball, and you can also take cone. Cone is also a wonderful example of 3D shape. So these are all 3D shapes. Fine. Now the question is again why they are 3D shapes. Now in 3D shapes we have to consider the three parameters now. That is, what are those? Length, breadth and height. So when we are considering this all figures, we have to consider always with the three parameters. Fine. Now if you carefully observe these 3D figures, students, then you will find that 3D object is nothing but a combination of many 2D shapes. Fine, so we'll discuss this matter later on in this chapter. So 3D are those shapes which are a combination of many 2D units, okay, or many 2D shapes. Fine. So these are all the 3D shapes. I request all of you to please draw all these figures in your copy. Fine. Now, the next one that we'll talk about is a proper 3D shape. We'll discuss on faces, edges and the vertices of a 3D shape. So we'll consider this shape, that is a cuboid shape. Now we know that this will be considered as length, this will be considered as breadth and this will be considered as height. Okay, so let us take one example. Now, suppose this is a duster, fine, duster. So it is in the shape of a cuboid, isn't it? Now, when we consider the face, how to see the face? That means in how many ways you can see this duster. See, one is this way, one is this way, one is this way, one is this way, another way is this, another way is this. So how many types, if I really show you, this is the first way that we can see the duster, isn't it? This is another way, 2. Third way is this one, and fourth way is this one. Fifth way from this side, and the sixth way is from this side. That is, how many ways that you can see the solid shapes will consider as a faces. So how many faces we have for a cuboid shape? That is 6, isn't it? We have 6 faces. Now the most easiest way to consider or to understand the 3D shapes of cuboid is you can consider this as a room. When you're sitting in a room, you can consider the ceiling as a one face, floor as a one shape, and all the 4 walls as the other 4 faces. So how many faces we are having? Ceiling will consider as a first face, floor will consider as a second face, and all the 4 walls will consider as the others 4 faces. So altogether how many faces you can observe in a cuboid? That is 6 faces. Now what is edges? Edges means how many sides are there. Fine, how many sides. So we'll again go with the duster. See, it's a duster. So if you carefully observe the duster, how many sides we have? 1, 2, 3, 4. Isn't it 4? And the lower part again, lower part 5, 6, 7, 8. Isn't it? So we have considered all the sides from the upper part and the lower part. Now this side also. This side, that is 5, 8, 9, 10, then 11, 12. Okay. So these are all the edges of a cuboid. So how many edges we are having for cuboid? Cuboid is 12. So we have 12 edges for cuboid shape. Now what is vertices? Vertices is also termed as vertex. Fine, it is also termed as vertex. Fine. So how many vertex? Vertex means corners, students. So how many corners we have? If you carefully observe these figures, 1, 2, 3, 4, 5, 6, 7 and 8. So how many corners we are having? We have 8 vertices in cuboid. Fine. So now let's move on to the next topic, that is net. Now what is net? So net is, please, I request all of you to write the definition. A net is a sort of skeleton, fine, or the outline in the 2D shapes which when folded result in a 3D shape. So it is an example of a net. Okay, it's just a skeleton of a cuboid. So it is unfolded actually. So when you fold all those sides together, this 2D shapes will be converted into a 3D shape. Just example, see this I have written as a net. This whole thing is considered as a net. You must have visited the Schutz shop. You must have seen the Colgate wrappers. You must have seen any packets. Okay, so these are all the nets. If you open it, then it transforms into a 2D shapes. So all the big companies, before they go for a proper packet, they all decide how the net would look like. Fine. So net is a very important concept before you convert those into a 3D shape. Fine. So net, this is a net, and net is a 2D shape. Fine. But when it is folded in a proper way, then this particular net will look like this. So when folded, see, when this net is folded properly, this will look like this. Fine. So initially it was in the 2D shape, now it is in the 3D shapes. Fine. So exercise 15.1 is all about net. So we'll discuss this matter in our next session. So I request all of you to please write it down, all the details that has been discussed in the video. Fine. So see you in my next session where we discuss about exercise 15.1. Till then, students, thank you, take care and stay blessed.